Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Beam, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Secretary of Kansas Agriculture, the Department of Agriculture. I want to welcome you to the 5th Department of Agricultural Ag Growth Summit. Today, we're going to talk about how we can jointly support and grow agriculture industry with, of course, the emphasis today at this session on the sector of cotton. Some of you know that typically and historically we have had all of this discussion at one large event that people would gather, and we miss having that opportunity because of response to the pandemic. But nonetheless, we think that this provides a really attractive alternative because it gives more people a chance to schedule in and be here. So we are excited about that, and I appreciate all of the work that our staff has done in coordinating that, particularly from our information technology crew. We know in these challenging times, and I think it's become more obvious to many of us and those outside of agriculture, that ag plays a big role in the world in feeding and providing, fuel and fiber to the world. And it's important for this state because agriculture is such an integral part of our economic engine. But we want to continue to be focused on how we sustain and grow agriculture, but do so in a very much of a collaborative effort with all of you as partners. So I want to thank you for taking the time today to be engaged. I want to thank the presenters, but I want to challenge all of you to participate in the questions and feedback that you'll get the opportunity to do later. So again, thank you. At this time, I'd like to turn over to Robin Bloom on our staff.
All right, great. Thank you, Secretary Beam. I am Robin Bloom with the Kansas Department of Agriculture, Division of Agricultural Marketing, and we're glad you've chosen some time to spend with us today. Our summit sector sessions here provide a platform for us to learn, as well as entertain opportunities and barriers to the agriculture industry growth for our state. Today, we'll be focusing the next hour or so on the Kansas cotton sector. The cotton sector is smaller in production than other Kansas crops, ranking 14th in the nation, but production and ginning in the state has increased significantly since 1996. There are more than 400 active cotton growers who have together exceeded 1.6 million bales since 1996. This session today will take a look at the current cotton industry, both globally and locally. However, before we get started, I would like to review a couple of housekeeping items. During the presentation portion of the webinar, all participant microphones will be muted. If you have a question during the presentation, please submit your question in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The questions and comments are monitored by my KDA colleague, Dana Ladner. When submitting a question in the Q&A, please include your name, city, and organization if you're from one. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted online. We'll go ahead and start with the presentation portion of our webinar. At this time, I would like to turn it over to our moderator, Susan Metzger. Susan.
Thank you, Robin, and thanks to everybody who's joining us today and to our panelists. Again, my name is Susan Metzger. I'm with the College of Agriculture at K-State and also K-State Research and Extension. And I had the pleasure, I guess now it's been 5 years ago, to be the sector lead for cotton when the concept of the ag growth strategy really got kicked off. So I'm really excited to be back with you today. There's so many successes that can be attributed to the power of getting together and talking about what we have in common and what our challenges are and how to address those together as it relates to cotton. So I'm excited to see what the next 5 years holds as our potential as we talk through this ag growth strategy related to cotton. So my role today, I'm going to share with you and introduce each of our presenters. As Robin mentioned, feel free at any point in time to pose a question in the Q&A box, and Dana will help us move through those. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of things get prompted as questions and discussions from each of our speakers. The first of which that I have the opportunity to introduce to you is Mike Canale. Mike is the merchandising manager for the Plains Cotton Cooperative Association. He's out of Lubbock, Texas. So the benefit of virtual is we get to have him here with us today on our screen so that we can hear from him. He's going to share with us a marketing update on cotton. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mike.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel today. Like in the introduction, I've worked the last 10 years with PCCA, and today I just wanted to share a little bit about what we do as a cooperative, what we do for our grower, our owners, and some of the things that we're planning to do in the future, and also a general look at the market and maybe some very basic things that the producers can do to get ready for this crop and future crops. So about Plains Cotton Cooperative, we were formed in the 50s. We represent growers from all the way in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas, all the way up to Kansas. And so we have about 17,000 payees that we monitor to and offer services to. We are grower owned. We have grower input through our board of directors, our delegate bodies from each gen. There's 3 delegate body members from Kansas as well on that delegate body. And everything that we do, we try to add value to our growers' cotton. And that's what I'm going to talk about just a little bit going forward. Some of the past innovations that we've done at PCCA, back in the 90s, we developed the electronic warehouse receipt, which made the passing of this information much quicker, much more efficient, and a lot less costly as comparing handling paper documents and so much. In the 70s, we developed electronic marketing, and then in the year 2000, us and other members joined to form the SEAM, which is a web-based program for electronic trading. We also offer services to our gens to help them be more efficient and save money for their growers and our growers as well through our module tracking service. Some of the infrastructure we have our warehouse in Liberal, which has a capacity of 185,000 bales. And then this year we announced the future warehouse facility in Clearwater, which will have 150,000 bale capacity. And this will obviously help save money for our gens as far as the length of the haul, and also make sure we have adequate space for the growing Kansas crop. And then also we have an excellent warehouse division that performs as far as getting cotton out on a great timely basis, but this will even help make it better in the future. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do at PCCA as far as what we can offer the growers. As far as marketing options, the largest option that's chosen with our growers is our pool marketing. We can handle anywhere from, it depends a lot on the size of the crop, but anywhere from 1.5 million bales, probably close to well over 2 million bales, maybe even 2.5 million bales on really large crops. So in this, we have a time period that during the month of March that the growers can sign in, sign out of this pool. And basically from there, they don't have to worry about anything else. The production from their farm automatically goes to the pool in the form of 100% or every other bale. The pool is sold around the year and sometimes even prior to that. So anywhere from 14 to 12 months out, the pool is selling, and we're looking for the best prices. And what the producer gets is a really good seasonal price. So a lot of diversity as far as your price risk is gained from the pool as far as the amount of time that the cotton is sold through. If you have any production concerns or anything like that, that's okay, because you're just committing a farm and the production that you grow. And so it's a pretty safe and it's a worry-free marketing option for producers that, like I said, is our most popular option. As far as prior to the harvest, we have forward contracts available. If the market is in a favorable spot, the producer can place a good till canceled order to be placed at the market that he finds suitable to develop a base price at. There is a bale commitment from the grower on our forward contracts. So that is one thing to consider. And then at the time of invoicing, when the GIN invoices the cotton to PCCA on that contract, if there is any eligible loan deficiency payment at that time available, the grower will receive that. He doesn't have to do anything extra. That's handled by our system here at PCCA. And then during the cash market, if the grower waits till after the cotton is harvested, we offer services through the SEAM, which reaches out not only to domestic buyers, but international buyers. I believe they have over 70 companies on there that look at cotton. So it's a great way to put your cotton out in front of a lot of people. At PCCA, I'm part of a team that is out there trying to place bids on cotton and buy cotton and handle cotton for our growers as well. So we're out there competing for your business on the SEAM as well. Some of the things that we do at PCCA, it's not like the physical infrastructure I mentioned earlier about our warehouses, but it's just as important, but it's the information infrastructure, if you will, the things that we provide through technology, software, support and training. In the last few years, we have come up with member access in the last several years, which gives our members access to all their information on their accounts, whether it's on a desktop or on an app. Our scale ticket software, which I've already mentioned, but it's a great benefit to our GINs and to make them more productive. We offer GIN accounting services, point of sale for the GINs that have stores on their site, and a dividend software as well. And then we do annual support and training workshops as well. PCCA is a cooperative marketing association, so we are able to handle as far as loans, loan deficiency payments, marketing loan gains, the same thing that FSA would handle. We're able to do that for our growers, and it relieves a lot of paperwork for our growers and our GINs. So we're able to do those things. I'm gonna just talk briefly about this screen, and it's something that I'll come back to at the end. But going forward, where our market is today, it's very important for the growers, for the GINs, all those that are involved in the marketing of their cotton, is to pay attention to the adjusted world price, the loan deficiency payment, and the marketing loan gain. These are things that can impact your total return on your price of your cotton. A little bit about the cotton market situation. I'm going to go through here at the beginning of the year, we were trading in the upper 60s, lower 70s. And then the first COVID cases came up in China. The first case came about in California, and the market, just like all the other markets, started to come down very sharply. We went from like I said, right around the 70-cent range, all the way down to about 50 cents and a little bit below 50 cents at one time. As soon as later on we recovered, the June acreage numbers came out. We got a little support from there. And today we find ourselves right around 62 cents in the market. Speaking of the June acreage numbers, we're off just a little bit. Kansas was the only state that actually increased acres, according to USDA, by 20,000 acres from 175,000 acres to 195,000 acres. So all the other states were down slightly. As far as the crop goes in the Southwest, PCCA, we're one of the 4 regional cooperative associations in the U.S. And so through our area that we keep up with, and I'll kind of start with what I've heard from J.C. Winters, who gives us a lot of feedback from the gens and the producers in Kansas, that in general, overall, that y'all have a pretty good crop going on. And I would say the same thing for Oklahoma. Unfortunately, in West Texas, we went without rain for a while. And as far as the high plains go, we lost the vast majority of our dry land acreage. There's some in the rolling plains that have received rains, and they'll have a chance to do a little bit better as far as maybe not quite have the loss of acres. In South Texas, they have an excellent crop going on, and they're beginning to harvest some in the valley. A lot of the cotton is open all the way through going up to about Corpus Christi. So that crop is getting ready to be harvested. There is some concerns with the Tropical Depression 8 coming in over the weekend. And so that will be the first storm that'll hit the Gulf, and hopefully be one of the few this year, so they can continue with getting their crops ready for harvest and so forth. I'm not going to go through all these and bore you with the numbers. Really what I want to show you, and I've highlighted it in red, if you go to the middle of the screen where it talks about use, and this is just what the coronavirus has done to the demand of cotton, not just in the United States here, but throughout the world, which I'll show you. But we were consuming 2018-19 about 3 million bales, and this year we're projected to be at 2.5 million bales. So you can see the impact that it's had. If you go and you look at the world numbers, again, there's a lot of numbers up there, and I don't want to bore you with all the details. I'm sure a lot of you have seen these, but the biggest number is what has happened to demand, and that's going to be the biggest question going forward. We've lost about 20 million bales of cotton consumption because of COVID-19. We were consuming worldwide about 10 million bales per month, and so we have lost literally 2 months of consumption. And the question going forward is, how long does it take us to slowly get back on track, if you will, and where we start consuming more, and consumers are buying more goods. So when we talk about the future demand, as I said, you can see here that this year was the largest single drop-off percentage in annual demand that we've had, going back to 2011, when cotton ran up to $2. It destroyed a lot of demand, and then that killed demand some. And then in 2008, the financial crisis, we had loss in demand following that as well. But you can see the impact that the coronavirus, COVID-19, has done across the globe. This is just a snapshot of some of the countries and how they are as far as customers to the U.S. And Vietnam and China are pretty close together, but Vietnam is the top destination for the 1920 year. But China is very important as well, and which brings me up here in just a little bit of the importance of China and so forth. Our main competitors right now going into this market are Brazil. They have cheaper costs going to the Far East than the U.S. does. They have a pretty decent sized crop. And right now their quotes into the Far East are a good bit cheaper than the U.S. One of the things that we have the advantage over a country like Brazil is the infrastructure and how we do things. And like I said, with our future plans with the warehouse in Clearwater, hopefully we continue to build on that stuff to where we have a competitive advantage over countries like this. You can see this chart shows the export by year for Brazil. And at about the time that we got into the trade argument, the trade war, whatever you want to call it, with China, that's about the time that Brazil started taking, their exports started to grow. So hopefully we'll have to get back in there and compete with them. So India is another competitor. They simply have a large amount of cotton on hand. Their government program a couple years ago bought a lot of cotton as part of their price support. So they're sitting on a lot of cotton. One of their disadvantages, though, is that their cotton is not preferred to the U.S. as far as it's hand-picked. It contains more contamination, and that's why it's important. I know a lot of people get tired of people talking about it, but having contamination-free cotton is one of the advantages that the U.S. has over some of these other countries. And you can see here by India's Indy stocks that how much cotton they have. So they are going to be a tough competitor, especially through them and Brazil through the first part of our marketing season, through at least through the first of the year. So the simple things, and I know we probably all say to ourselves that, hey, I'm tired of reading the news. I need to get away from the news. But, you know, as far as cotton go, you know, keep in touch with what's going on with U.S.-China trade relations, how that will impact what's going on with the phase one, and whether it will continue and China will continue in their promises on that. And hopefully we'll have some large cotton purchases down the road. And then also simply how COVID handles or how our economy handles COVID going forward down the road, not just here in the U.S., but all through the world. Will we have more shutdowns, what have you, how that affects our economy and so forth. This is a graph right here. The top line represents what China needs to buy, and this is total ag, not just cotton, but what China needs to buy as far as their commitments to phase one. You can see where they're at. They're well behind schedule, but partly some of that is, or probably a large part of that is due to COVID-19 and not being able to buy cotton. So hopefully that increases and increases soon. This might be hard to read for some of y'all, but basically this is off of Bloomberg. And I put this up here because how our economy, and not just our economy, but economies around the world, as some of this fiscal support starts to maybe run out, maybe the government approves additional, how will our economy, what will happen to jobs in the next 3 to 6 months? I think it's going to have a big impact on demand and consumption for cotton. So a lot of these things are, you know, no one knows the answer to all this stuff, but it's something that we have to follow. And which brings me to my last slide, and just really trying to stay informed as a producer. You know, your marketing plan, you know, people ask, so where's a good place to sell? What should I do in this area? That is such an individual question, because I don't know what your specific costs are, what your plans are. So, but to stick with your marketing plan and not necessarily your neighbor's plan. In this area where we sit today in the low mid 60s, you need to have a realistic pricing expectation. And for some of the things I've mentioned today, our competitors, India and Brazil, they are priced much cheaper than U.S. cotton at this time. So if you don't have cotton already priced going into the season, you need to think about pricing your cotton at a level where the market is eventually. You know, we have the marketing assistance loan, which you could place cotton into the loan, and you can sell your equity at a later date, hopefully when the market's better. And if you choose to do that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that option, but your equity portion, you'll have 9 months plus so many days to sell that equity. Don't sit on it till the last 1 month or 2 months and try to get an equity, a decent equity for your cotton. It's to have your cotton out in front of many people as possible and have it at a realistic price. And like I mentioned earlier, just try to follow the marketing loan game, the LDP, Every week at 3 p.m. Central, USDA announces what the loan deficiency payment / the marketing loan gain will be for the coming week, which it's a fixed rate from Friday through Thursday. And then that 5-day average for the following week is what creates the next week's LDP. So I know these are very simple things to do, but I'm surprised a lot of times by some of the calls I get. If it's just a little simple following of the market and being prepared for some of the things that might arise. I don't think it's going to be an easy marketing year for some of the things I've mentioned. So it's going to be one where you have to everyone's just going to have to bear down and do their best. This is what I have today. I thank you again for the opportunity to be on this panel. And if there's any questions, whenever we get to that time, I'll be happy to try to answer them the best I can.
Great, thank you, Mike, very much. That was really helpful. I think those tips are great tips for being prepared in any year, but this year in particular. So thank you for sharing that. Before we go on to questions, I just want to introduce your coworker. Many of our Kansas cotton producers probably know her already, but you mentioned in your presentation, JC Winters being the local PCCA contact. And so I just want to give JC an opportunity. She doesn't have slides or anything, but just to, if you haven't had a chance to meet her now virtually. So JC, if you have a couple of comments.
Hi, everyone. I just want to take a second to thank everyone for tuning in to this webinar, and thank you for your interest in the growing cotton industry in Kansas. And thank you, Mike, for that awesome, informative marketing presentation. You know, this is an exciting crop to be involved with in Kansas and kind of a new frontier. Even though it's been here for a while, it's ever changing each and every year here in Kansas with our growing infrastructure, improving technology, improving seed varieties. It's very exciting. As was said, my name's JC Winters, and I'm the local representative for Plains Cotton Cooperative Association here in Kansas. I'm basically a resource for you for anything you might need. I might not be necessarily the person who you need, but I can definitely help find that resource for you in our wider industry and partners across other states as well as locally. So I just wanted to make an introduction here. Thank you all so much for being here. I don't know if my name is on the screen, but you can probably reach me most easily via email, and my email is my name, jc.winters@pcca.com, and that's JAYCE. So thank you again so much, and I look forward to the rest of this presentation.
Great, thank you, JC. This might be a good stopping point just to pause, and I'll ask Dana if there were any questions that came in specific for our market update that maybe Mike or JC could answer.
You bet. Thanks, Susan. Mike, we did have one question that came in that you mentioned that it's not going to be an easy marketing year this year. So with the drop in demand and the loss in consumption, can you project whether prices will continue to increase from the 62 cents from where they're at today?
No, and I don't think anyone else can. You know, where this future market goes, we can all have biases and so forth. But I think, you know, from here where we sit today, maybe a thought or an idea might be, basically we have protection through the LDP and the marketing loan gain when the market is around 64, 65 cents. From there, when it starts to drop, the loan deficiency payment gets larger. The lower it goes, the larger the LDP will get, or your marketing loan gain. So I would think I try to think from a grower's perspective that as long as, if I'm around the 65 cent level, I have some type of protection on the way down in the form of an LDP. So I would consider, and again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, every grower situation is different, but anytime that we surpass the 65 cent level, it might be a good time to, you can talk with us here at PCCA, or think about if the price makes sense to you, about maybe locking in some type of price on a portion of your crop. So, but you know, your initial question about Where the price is going to go, I wish I could tell you that, but I don't have that crystal ball.
Well, great. Well, Mike, thank you for those comments. JC, it was great for you to introduce yourself to those that are on today. With that, Susan, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Dana. And just a reminder to everybody who's listening in, anytime that you have a question for one of our panelists or presenters, feel free to put it in the QA box. We'll pause every so often just to field some of those questions. So next we have sort of a general update, and we have two great speakers who are going to share sort of the state of cotton for us right now. And the first is going to be Shelley Heinrich. Shelley is the Regional Communications Manager with the Southern Plains region for the Cotton Board. Shelley's going to share a little bit about the Cotton Board and their national program. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Shelley. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Give me just a minute and let me share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, so as I was introduced, I am Shelley Heinrich. I am from Lubbock, Texas, and I'm the Southern Plains Regional Communications Manager for the Cotton Board. One of the things that I often get to do is travel around the U.S. and my specific area is Kansas, Oklahoma, and West Texas. And West Texas includes the Southern Plains and the Texas Panhandle. All in all, on a good year, we can have about 4 million acres of cotton, get close maybe up to that 4.5. On a tough year like what we've got this year, you know, we're gonna work really hard on getting that 3 million acre number. So my job is to get out and communicate with producers, get my shoes in the dirt, as I often say. And because of COVID, we've had, I've been tied up and sitting in an office doing a lot of technology, Zoom meetings, and talking on the phone with producers. But it's an opportunity to get out and visit with you all and do the Zoom meetings and be able to do it here in Lubbock, but still get the word out. So what is the Cotton Board? I'm going to start off with that. We are the oversight board for the Cotton Research and Promotion Program, of which anyone that grows cotton participates in. And that particular board is important to the cotton industry for a myriad of reasons. And I'm going to go over that here in this presentation. The first part of that board, it is the oversight and administration program for the funds of the checkoff program. It collects those funds. And then we as regional communications managers go out and communicate to our producers and to stakeholders, of which are also importers of the program's activities and what it is doing. Overall, that particular board is the oversight board for Cotton Incorporated. And a lot of times it's the Cotton Board and Cotton Incorporated is used interchangeably. But in the 1960s, when the Cotton Research and Promotion Program was first established, the board members had a very long-term sight in making sure that research and promotion was going to be consistent. And so they formed Cotton Incorporated. And that is the arm of the Cotton Research and Promotion Program that functions and does all of the research and promotion functions themselves. So a little bit of difference between the two. A lot of times they're used interchangeably or get mixed up, but I wanted to make that clear. On our Cotton Board, we have producers and importers. Importers also pay an assessment, but our producer board consists of 48 cotton producers from the cotton growing regions, and those are based off of the number of bales that each of the states produces. We have 28 importers or brands and retailers. They come from companies such as Target, JCPenney's, Macy's, and then you've got Levi Strauss and some other big names. But both the importers and producers work hand in hand together and come up with directives. We also have 4 advisors, and those are typically people that are out in the community. They may be cotton growers, they may be industry participants that have an active role in the cotton industry and in the apparel and brands and retailers site, that we want them to participate as well. Cotton Incorporated, on the other hand, has 110 cotton producers that oversees the research and promotion that's being done. And together, the 2 boards work hand in hand. The Cotton Board gives directives to Cotton Incorporated as to what they want to see being done as far as research, and Cotton Incorporated carries those research projects and directives out. So the 2 boards, as I said, work very, very close together. We have 4 meetings a year, and to make sure that the cotton industry and the research and promotion program stays on track. Oh, it went too fast here. So the collection of funds, what does it cost a producer? It is $1 per bale plus 1/2% of the bale's value. So it was really easy for me to say when cotton was 75 cents that cotton, that extra 1/2% was about $1.50. So in today's prices, it's going to be around $1.25. So each producer will pay $2 and approximately 25 cents per bale into the program, and importers as well will pay an assessment on cotton that they bring back into the U.S. as finished goods. So you've got a little bit of lapse in time, but overall, both the producers and the importers give in about 50-50 into the research and promotion program. And in this particular slide, I've got the 2019 budget was $82 million. And of that, as I said, each group gives about 50%. The 2020 budget was $86 million. And we have not yet voted on the 2021 budget, but we anticipate it being around $80 million. It will go down because of prices. It will go down because of production that producers are faced with in the 2020 crop year. But the Cotton Board has been very judicious in maintaining a reserve balance out there so that we can keep the cotton research and promotion program as consistent as possible from a funding basis. So we will go to our reserves more than likely for the 2021 program to make sure that we keep the research and promotion program as stable and consistent as possible. So oftentimes I get asked about other cotton industries. And we talked a little bit about Cotton Incorporated, and they are the research and promotion conduit for the cotton industry. Then there's National Cotton Council, which that is the policy arm. So anything that has to do with the Farm Bill or government regulation, government policies and state policies usually is directed to National Cotton Council, and they have their folks that go in there and approach policy in ways that are beneficial to the cotton industry. And then last, we have Cotton USA, and Bruce Atherley and his group go out and they promote U.S. cotton internationally to other countries and to spinning mills so that the U.S. cotton brand is recognized across the world. So you've got the Cotton Board, Cotton Incorporated, National Cotton Council, Cotton USA, and oh yeah, you have your state organizations too, such as the Kansas Cotton Association. So that particular group is farmers and ginners that are interested in all 3 of these particular industries and organizations, as well as paying into the research and promotion program. Any questions along those lines, feel free to ask them and we'll answer them when Dana says that we need to answer them. Next, I want to talk about things that we're doing while being in these unprecedented times. I'm one that I like to get out in the field with producers. I like to travel and see what's going on in various different places, but because of COVID travel restrictions, we're not able to do that. So we have used technology heavily to reach out to producers to let them know what is going on in the cotton industry as far as their research and promotion programs go. So we have done regional blog posts out there, and we are asking producers to do crop updates for us. Kent Dunn has done some for us. Susan Druard has done some for us in the Kansas cotton world, and I certainly appreciate that and want those all the time. We do a Facebook post once a week, and it gives producers from across the cotton belt, and it goes from North Carolina to California. We've asked those producers to give us an update on their fields and what's going on, and we will post those out on Facebook on a weekly basis, and I hope that you'll get out there and listen to them. It's interesting to me, being a producer's wife, how far the crop has progressed in the past 30 days. When we were first getting it planted, it was pretty rough planting across the total cotton belt. Some areas were really wet, some areas were really dry, and planting conditions were not very ideal this year. So over the past 30 days, there's been some rain, there's been some sunshine. The plants are kicking in, their root systems are developing very well, and we are starting to get some bow load on those plants. So fun, exciting things that we're seeing out there along the crop updates. And if you'll tune into Facebook, you can watch some more of those. Another thing that we've started to do is our cotton industry Zoom meetings. We had our first one on July 14th. It's a 7 a.m. meeting, and we talked about the global supply chain and what was happening in the cotton industry with brands and retailers and how they were consuming cotton and what they were doing with the products. Megan Peterson and Mark Masura joined us. They gave a 30-minute talk via Zoom, and we started it at 7 a.m. and we finished up at 7:30. And I think we had over 125 registered, and ultimately we had over 105 that joined us by Zoom. The next one that we will do, we're going to do it at 7:30 a.m. Our California growers were a little bit sleepy-eyed at 5 a.m. in the morning, so we're gonna let them sleep in an extra 30 minutes. And we'll start at 7:30 a.m. and Vicki Martin is going to talk about fiber competition. This is her expertise, and we will give her the mic for 30 minutes to talk about what is happening in the world of fiber competition. We're going to schedule these meetings every 3 weeks, and we have them scheduled from now until the end of December. So we'll have John Devine, our market economist, come in and talk about what he sees for the cotton market. We'll have Cater Haig and his ag and engineering group talk about what is going on in their world, as well as a myriad of others. But every 3 weeks, 7:30 Zoom webcast. We hope that you'll join us in the time that it takes to drink a cup of coffee. You can learn a little bit more about the cotton market. You do have to register for the meeting. So if you have any interest in doing that, please text me or email me, call me. I'm happy to give out my number to those that want it and pass that registration link on to everyone out there. Some other things that we have out there: Cotton Cultivated and our Cotton Works websites. I encourage you to go out to Cotton Cultivated. It is a producer engineered website that you can find out a lot of research that is going on when it comes to cotton production. One of the things that I cue into is every Thursday morning we have a midweek weather outlook. And I look forward to that because it gives me the next week and 2 weeks worth of weather information so that I kind of know what to expect. But if you will click around in there. There is a lot of producer information and research information that CI has done on your behalf as a producer. Our Cotton Works website, there's many pre-recorded webinars that are going on out there that you can learn more about the cotton industry. We talk about water, we talk about sustainability, we talk about what's going on in the global markets. We talk about things that brands and retailers are doing. There is a particular webinar that was recorded today on cotton and soil health and what is going on along those lines. And we have some very talented doctors and speakers out there talking about soil health. So it's pre-recorded, and I encourage you to go out to Cotton Works and listen to what they're doing out there. Last but not least, I wanted to talk a little bit about the U.S. Trust Protocol. It is an opportunity for producers to enroll into a system that gives them the opportunity to tell their story on what they're doing on their farm with regard to sustainability. Brands and retailers are getting a lot of pressure to make sure that they source cotton that is sustainable. And U.S. cotton producers are getting a lot of pressure to tell their story about how they are being sustainable. So the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol brings that all together and does it through a website in which the producer will enroll. They'll do a self-assessment of about, it takes about 30 to 45 minutes. I've done it ourselves on our farm. It asks general questions as to what you're doing along the lines of irrigation, water, crop practices, your soil health, record keeping, etc., things like that. It's nothing that you don't do on a daily basis. Then it looks at your harvest data. Once you get that crop out, it wants to know, how you did. And then the last and not least is a second party verification. You could have somebody come in and just look at what you've got and make sure that you've got it in right. It will aggregate it all and it'll give you some information so that you can look at year over year how you're progressing when it comes to sustainability. I know my producer was a little concerned when I first put his farm in it last year, and it's made him even more aware of things that he has always done to make sure that I log that into his records for this year. So it's a good tool to have, and it provides producers an opportunity to have their cotton in the market to be selected by brands and retailers. One of the things that's out there as to how you can help, just by talking about it. If you have any questions along those lines, if you should come up with some, feel free again to call me and we'll figure it out. I may not know all the answers, but we have the expertise with the Cotton Trust Protocol team to be able to get some answers that will hopefully be helpful to you. And last but not least, I would encourage you to follow us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or go to our websites. We are out there. I am dying to get back out in the dirt. I'm tired of being at home captivated. I can drive around our farms. I can drive around places that are within close proximity to me, but I would love to get out and ride around with my friend JC Winters out there. We took a tour last year, a fast one. We got a lot covered in 2.5 days, and got to visit with producers out there in Kansas, and want to be able to do that again. And again, I thank Robin and her team at the Kansas Department of Ag for inviting myself to this opportunity. And if there's anything that we can do for you, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate that great update. And I think we can all relate. We're all very ready to get out and to be in the field, seeing friends outside of a 5-mile circle from our own homes. But thank you so much for everything that you're doing in the meantime. Those webinars, the coffee and cotton, those all sound like really great ways to kind of make the best of the times that we have in front of computers and staying connected right now. So I appreciate that. Yeah, so let's take a moment. We'll just go ahead and visit first with Galen Morgan and come back for some questions and answers. So you did a great job explaining that research and promotion arm. So we're going to turn it over to the Cotton Incorporated portion of that. And Galen Morgan's joining us today from the Director of Ag Research for Cotton Incorporated. And he's going to share an update too through some slides. And then we'll take a pause and look at some questions. So I'll turn it over to you, Galen.
Can y'all see my screen, or is it in the wrong format?
Looks perfect.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Galen Morgan. I'm a Director of Agriculture and Environmental Research with Cotton Incorporated. And as Shelley mentioned, a lot of what we do at Cotton Incorporated directly links with what the Cotton Board does. And essentially, we're the sole research and promotion for cotton, with the funds coming through the Cotton Board. And, you know, I've been here a little over a year. I was previously the state cotton specialist at Texas A&M, so I'm learning a lot about Cotton Incorporated as well, and I've learned a lot of great things about the company, and very glad to be here. So our overall mission with Cotton Incorporated is to improve the demand for and the profitability of cotton through research and promotion. It doesn't matter how much cotton we grow. If we can't sell it, it really doesn't help us. And that gets back to the first presentation. We need that demand out there. And that's really where Cotton Incorporated spends a lot of its time and effort. A lot of the farmers out there only think about the ag research portion of Cotton Incorporated, but the vast majority of the money actually goes to research and promotion so that we do have a market for that cotton once we grow it. And these are the major divisions within Cotton Incorporated. On the left side there is the Ag and Environmental Research Division, which I'm part of. That focuses primarily on cotton production. Then we have the fiber competition part, which a lot of the work that's done there is to develop products that keep cotton competitive against other fibers that are being sold. Product development implementation. Lots going on there to develop products that are demanded by the consumer, and then global supply chain and marketing, and then consumer marketing. And we'll get into a bit more detail on some of these as we go through. But I just wanted to point out that all these are intermeshed together. We work closely amongst all these different divisions to ensure that cotton is the choice for those buying fabric. So from the Ag and Environmental Research Division, basically we're directing and leveraging the growers' funds. And Shelley mentioned, you know, the funds and how they're established. And basically the Ag and Environmental Research portion gets about probably about 15 to 20% of those total funds that are directed toward, you know, the growers' interest and growers' projects specifically. And those fund priorities are directed from the state support committees, which that's the money basically comes back to the state, and the local growers decide how that money is going to be spent. And then there's the kind of the national money that's available for projects, and that's directed by people like myself with obviously substantial input from the board of directors, which is a little over 100 growers from across the entire cotton belt. So that's who we answer to in the end, is ultimately our board of directors, and that's all cotton producers. On any year where we fund about 400 different projects, ranging anywhere from the most basic molecular plant genetics all the way to the most basic things of, you know, plant nutrition and pest management. And the vast majority of the funds that we have and the projects that we have work with the university scientists across the cotton belt and across the U.S. And in some cases where it's appropriate, we'll collaborate also with other countries, so primarily with Australia if we're collaborating. And then we have a lot of collaboration with the USDA as well, ARS, Ag Research Services. So we basically have the best talent from across the United States in the universities and USDA that are directing their time and effort toward solving some of the problems that cotton may be challenged with. So these are, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the way we're broken up with the major people and divisions. Our division is led by Cater Hake, and he supervises us, but also Cater is a very bright individual that understands all the disciplines very well. He kind of oversees us, and then there's Ed Barnes, who's precision agriculture and irrigation and ginning as well. We currently have a vacancy in plant pathology due to Dr. Bob Nichols just retired after 28 years with Cotton Incorporated, and hopefully that position will be refilled in the near future. Oops. And then Don Jones is over the project manager for breeding and genetics. Ryan Kurtz, entomology and outreach. So some of the web pages that Shelley was mentioning there at the end, Ryan Kurtz coordinates those. And then myself, my focus is on weeds, nutrient management, and soil health, and then working with the extension cotton specialists across the cotton belt. There's also cotton seed research and promotion that goes on. So the cotton seed is obviously a substantial portion of the income that the grower can get. And we're looking for new markets for those and new value for the cotton seed. And then many of the things that Shelley mentioned, and I'll go into in a little bit of detail as well, is starting to really revolve around the sustainability. Jesse Daystar was hired as the Chief Sustainability Officer, and that led into, he works with the Cotton Trust Protocol and many of the other sustainability type projects that are going on. And then John Devine's our ag economist. So the overall objective of the Ag Environmental Research Division is to identify crop management strategies that optimize profitability for cotton growers while maintaining and improving environmental sustainability. So basically we're looking at ways to reduce input cost, improve yields per unit of input, and then also increase efficiencies as a whole, such as labor and some other areas as well. These are kind of the, these are some of the current research priorities based on feedback from our board of directors, which are the growers. Weed management with a lot of the herbicide resistant weeds that are out there. Also with some of the recent challenges with the opportunity to apply dicamba in cotton and some of the other things. That is a high priority. The insect management part, there's especially with the BT resistance that happens in other parts of the cotton belt in particular, that's a major issue. Disease management, we've had several new diseases pop up in recent years. Although diseases aren't usually a huge issue in Kansas, besides some of the seedling diseases, these other diseases do have the potential to move into that Kansas area. So there's a lot of time and effort this past decade that's been focused on dealing with these new diseases as they have emerged in cotton. A lot of those are being dealt with genetic improvements, plant breeding and things like that to integrate resistance into the varieties that are being released, but also genetic improvements, obviously, in fiber quality. We are an export market where we export about 80% of our cotton, and we got to have that good quality cotton so that we make sure and have a market for that, and obviously genetic improvements in yields as well. Seed quality is one that has really come to the forefront just in the past couple years. We know that our cotton seed varieties are getting smaller and smaller. So seed quality plays a much bigger role than it once did. And also with some of the more erratic weather conditions that we're having, we really need a high seed quality in order to get a good stand and not have to replant those fields. But there's Beltwide project going on in that area with 15 plus locations looking at various seed quality parameters. Nutrient management, we know there's lots of opportunities there. for refining, especially the nitrogen recommendations, but also potassium. In some of our high yielding areas, we do run into potassium deficiencies, I know in Kansas, but in other parts of the cotton belt as well. And on the nitrogen management side of things, there are some general recommendations out there. It varies tremendously by state. But we know if we can refine that, the nitrogen recommendations, and even bring those recommendations down 5 or 10%, that could have a big economic impact for our growers, but it could also have a big positive environmental impact on the sustainability of cotton, because the nitrous oxide is one of the biggest greenhouse gases. So if we can minimize that, that can be a huge benefit from improving the sustainability of cotton. New technologies to improve efficiency, that's where our ag engineers comes in, and they do a lot of work trying to improve production efficiency, harvest efficiency, and ginning efficiency. And then higher value markets and demand for cottonseed, basically just improving the quality of our products so that we can the growers can get better prices for those products. Plastic contamination is a major concern for our industry. Most of that plastic's coming from the round bale wrap, and we got to find a way to keep that out of our cotton because that's a direct discount to the growers, but it also negatively impacts our ability, or could potentially impact our ability to export cotton, and again affect the price that our growers are going to be getting. And then sustainability kind of plays into each of those upper ones, each of those bullet points above. If we can improve yield, it drastically increases the sustainability of many of the other inputs. So that's got to be a consideration as well. So Cotton Incorporated is having its 50th anniversary this year, and there's a lot of major developments that have come out of Cotton Incorporated thanks to the contributions from both the growers, funding, and also the importers. You don't see on the picture on the upper left there, that's a module builder. We don't see a lot of those anymore, but that was a direct result of the checkoff dollars being invested into research and development. And of course, there's lots of other things that increase the demand for cotton and keep cotton preferred by the consumer. And we'll talk about some more of those as we go along. But again, I just want to make the point, we're all integrated into the various systems. What we do at the farm level can dramatically impact things throughout the entire supply chain. So similar to what Shelley mentioned with the Cotton Trust Protocol, part of it, that is just to identify those areas of how the farm's being managed, and then hopefully in the end, increase consumer demand for U.S. cotton. Again, sustainability is one of the major areas now, and it's really an area that cotton has an opportunity to elevate itself above some of the other competitors as far as fibers go. And that's because cotton does actually have a really good story to tell about sustainability. And we know that consumers continue to put pressure on brands and retailers to be more transparent in their supply chains. And we see that as an opportunity, an advantageous opportunity to increase demand for cotton. Cotton Incorporated has come up with its very aggressive 10-year industry-wide sustainability goals. And again, this is just to prove to the brands and retailers that cotton is a sustainable product. And again, hopefully improving the demand of that. Two major programs is the Cotton Leads program, and then of course the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol, which is fairly new, and Shelley discussed that earlier. One of the major areas that Cotton Incorporated is really doing a lot of research on is to get the science on this, is the microplastic and the microfibers. Anything that Cotton Incorporated promotes, it has to be based on science and has to be reviewed to typically published in peer-reviewed journals and things like that. We have to be on very sound footing before we can say anything about cotton or its competitors. But we know that there's been a lot of attention regarding plastics and others in the ocean. And we think this is a really good opportunity for cotton because we know that cotton does biodegrade, and we've done lots of research has been done and is ongoing looking at, how quickly cotton degrades either in fresh water or salt water, and how that compares to some of the other fibers that are being sold. And we have a really, really strong story to tell on that front. There's also a lot of work being done looking at how cotton and its sustainability, and as far as carbon goes, and carbon cycling and things like that. So a lot of work going on with cultural practices that can help improve the cotton sustainability story. One specific example of sustainability, and this is Blue Jeans Go Green. For some reason I don't have it titled there, but this is basically where people recycle their blue jeans and they can get converted into insulation. So it's basically completing that life cycle from that regard. And it's got a lot of support from partners like Zappos, and also from the Vitagen cottonseed is also a very strong supporter of this program. So this has gained a lot of attention and given a lot of has had a lot of very positive feedback from the entire supply chain. The other thing is in the research and development, there's a lot done, not in the ag side, but in the other part of research and development within cotton is to develop new products, again, that help keep the demand for cotton high. And these are just a few examples that Cotton Incorporated has developed. The wicking windows technology, basically that's directed toward the athletic gear. We all know that a lot of the synthetic products were in high demand for athletic wear. Well, Cotton basically did a lot of research and developed these wicking windows, and basically has again moved into the athletic wear market quite well. Storm cotton is another one that was developed at Cotton Incorporated, and it's basically cotton that is that is water repellent. So this has allowed it to also get into more of the jacket and outdoor wear, blue jeans and things like that. There's also tough cotton, which has been very widely adopted by many of the denim blue jean companies because it basically increases the durability of cotton and allows those blue jeans to last much longer. And then pure press is something that's fairly new. If you're not aware, a lot of the permanent press type technologies are permanent press clothing and things like that. A lot of that use formaldehyde to make the permanent press. Well, this pure press was again identified or developed by Cotton Incorporated, which is a non-formaldehyde press, wrinkle-free type system. So that's another one that, again, we just got to keep developing these technologies so that we can stay ahead of the competitors. And that's what Cotton Incorporated is trying to do to, again, increase that demand. And then as these new technologies are brands and retailers may have interest in them, but Cotton Incorporated also supports them actually integrating this into their system. So any issues they may have implementing the adoption of these technologies, Cotton Incorporated worked directly with them to ensure that they're successful in actually following through and using these products. Consumer marketing is another major area, and all of you are probably familiar with some of the television commercials, Cotton, the fabric of our life, and there's many different takes on that type of commercial. And I think that used to be a very straightforward type system where basically commercials were done on major television networks. But now that we're in a much broader digital type system and social media, Cotton Incorporated obviously has broadened where it's targeting and who it's targeting with some of these commercials and ads and things like that. So it's diversified a lot. We do get the comment on occasion, you know, why don't we see the advertisements on television like we used to for cotton? And the answer to that question is basically the fact that, you know, people are shopping elsewhere. They're seeing the internet and things like that. We need to get it where the consumers are actually looking for clothing and make sure that we're reaching those people, whether it's through influencers or other ways through social media. And then various strategic alliances and public relations to ensure, again, that demand, that the consumer is aware of cotton and aware of the comfort of cotton, because growers' surveys continue to say that consumers demand and prefer cotton over any of the other fabrics. And also their efforts going into classroom teaching kits, and this is to basically just to make the kids aware of cotton and the cotton system. These are STEM-based teaching kits to engage students in hands-on classroom lessons and activities about cotton science and the sustainability of it. And then also the cottoninc.com consumer marketing lesson plans are available as well. We also have many professors and things like that during the various times during the year to educate college professors as well about cotton, and just to ensure that the correct story about cotton is getting out to the consumers and the students as they're being educated about fabric and things like that. Kind of the last thing, and Shelley and her colleagues basically kind of lead this effort, but usually about 4 times a year there's the Cotton Incorporated producer tours. This is where they tour the Cotton Incorporated facilities and hear a very expanded version of the presentation that I gave today with much better presenters than me presenting it, and a much more in-depth understanding of the areas and the many things that Cotton Incorporated is doing. One of the highlights is the back building of Cotton Incorporated, where they're doing all this, you know, dyeing work and fabric work and things like that. It's just completely amazing what they're doing in order to keep cotton competitive in the market. And I guess if you have interest in these Cotton Incorporated producer tours, all have been canceled, I think, for 2020. But depending on how the COVID situation goes, hopefully in 2021, these will be picked back up, and Shelley would be your point of contact for if you're interested in some of these cotton producer tours. And just want to thank the audience for your continued support of the cotton industry as a whole. We know the cotton acres in Kansas are increasing, and Cotton Incorporated's here to help support that research and outreach efforts so that the demand remains there, but also the profitability of our growers remains there. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions now or through the chat later.
Great, thank you, Galen. That was a wonderful overview of some of the latest research and promotion efforts and really exciting stuff. I know I already took a note for the Blue Jeans Go Green Zappos program. Super easy, free shipping, and a great way to clean out our closets. So yep. Thanks for sharing that. And also, as you likely know, the sustainability aspects that you described are certainly in line with the cotton sector portion of our agro strategy. Really came to our attention as an alternative crop to address declining aquifer conditions in Western Kansas. So really aligns well with that. So yeah. How about we take a couple of questions for Galen and Shelley at this point in time. So I'll see Dana if we have any questions for them.
You bet. Thanks, Susan. I'm going to go with Shelley's question first. So Galen, you can take a little break real quick. Shelley, is there a cost for enrolling in the Trust Sustainability Program? And if so, you know, do those enrolled need to renew every year?
There is no cost at all. It's just the time to take to get it done. And yes, each crop year will have to have a new enrollment in it. So new information on the current year's crop will be added to it. You'll have your old information as well, and you can build on that. but each year you'll have to re-enroll, and at no cost. The industry is paying for it.
Well, that's great to hear. That's very exciting program, and really look forward to the information that's gathered from that.
So do we.
So, yeah, that's
fun. Last year we had about 300 producers nationwide that participated in the program, and we're looking for more this year.
Well, that's super. Great. Very, very glad to hear that. So thank you for your time and explaining that and giving us some additional information. Galen, I do have a question for you, and it pertains to the plastic wrapping, and that you mentioned the deductions that producers would get from that. So what are some examples of research efforts to alternatives to that plastic wrap?
So, I mean, the alternative currently is the old module building system, which is still available. That could be used if you're completely, I mean, trying to avoid the plastic altogether. Other than, I mean, if you're using the new round module system, there's some research being conducted about how we could use cotton and or other some biodegradable product with that, but it's nowhere close to being commercially available. But yeah, it would be great if we could wrap our cotton with more cotton. That would be strongly preferred, but we're not quite there yet.
Well, that sounds great. Thank you to you two for answering some questions. And we do have additional questions, but Susan, we'll take those at the end. So I'll let you go ahead with the program.
Great, thank you, Dana, and thanks for your help keeping up with those questions. Again, for everybody listening in, feel free to add those questions at any point in time, and we'll try and field as many as possible at the end of our presentations, which we have one more of. And Galen really talked a lot about routine research that goes into weed and pest management, which is common for all commodity issues, especially, but not alone with cotton. So Rex is going to share an update with us today about the boll weevil program, and hopefully you have some ideas to share with us in the Q&A section related to that program. So Rex, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I'm trying to get used to the system, of course, and I'm trying to imagine that I'm in front of a breakout session room with the crowd in front of me instead of this. But I'm just going to go over quickly the program as it is, and hopefully not get too deep into the weeds, but I do want people to be aware of what's going on in Kansas and the progress we've made and things that have yet to be done. So I have a presentation that I shared, I think it was back in February. I gave some of this information, but it's been updated since then. So I'm going to try to get this screen up now. Okay, I hope everybody can hear, and I hope I'm doing everything right here.
Looks good, Rex.
Okay, great. I'll give it a shot. The Kansas program, a lot of people ask, why do we need trapping? And I'm going to hopefully answer that question today, because we don't have weevils in Kansas, and we shouldn't have weevils in Kansas. So why are we doing this? And that's really what I want to get to today. And just briefly give the scenario of why this matters. I'll give the overview and the importance to Kansas, and then the current status of our program. And I'll be happy to entertain questions at the end, of course. This looks like a lot of information, and I'm just going to highlight it that basically weevils have been in the United States since 1890s. We've been dealing with them for a long time. They've caused they've been devastating to the industry and devastating to the areas where they've been severe pests. As you can see down below, in 1978, the National Boll Weevil Eradication Program was launched. That was after the National Cotton Council figured out that we can't sustain this and produce cotton in the United States. So that program was launched. It was started in the in the southeast cotton producing region, and as states adopted the program, they were able to push it back. Now today, boll weevils are only in southern Texas. It's been eradicated from everywhere else. And they have an ongoing fight there due to weather patterns that bring the weevils from Mexico up into southern Texas and all of that. So, and currently, because of the extent of or the severity of what the problem is, all those states that did have weevils, they're still operating mandatory trapping programs to make sure that if something should ever show up for whatever reason, they would detect it quickly and then be able to eradicate them quickly. So we don't ever want to go back to fighting boll weevils nationwide. The importance to the U.S. agriculture is over the years, in that little over 100 years, it's cost us $15 billion in lost yield and costs of control for this pest. It's the worst pest that you can imagine in cotton. I thought I had seen them all until I worked in West Texas for just long enough to see what boll weevils could do. And then that's convinced me that we don't want that pest anywhere. It is a devastating pest. It's hard to control due to its biology. It just basically resorts to frequent spraying in season. And then we try to control it through various approaches now. The science that was done on it showed the biology. It has several weak links in its biology, and those have been exploited to eradicate it. But as an example of how bad it could get, in Georgia, they averaged over 14 in-season treatments just for boll weevils to try to keep them down to a manageable level. And they reduced that down to 5.5, and that sounds like that. Well, there's still a lot there. And well, those 5.5 treatments aren't for boll weevils anymore; they're for some other pests. So the difference in treatments is dramatic. The eradication of the weevil has allowed these states to produce cotton again. Cotton was going away in a number of those states because of the cost of control and the profitability and all those things. And the painful truth was that even treating so often, they'd still have yield loss. So it's a pest that we can't afford to have ever. Why does this matter to Kansas? Well, we all are aware that the acres are really going up in Kansas. They're really skyrocketing. As was made mention earlier today in one of the talks, Kansas this year is the only state in the nation that's actually increasing cotton acres. Everyone else is going down, or either equal or going down from last year. So I think our producers here in Kansas realize the profit potential and the ability to make some money with cotton. So depending on what happens with the international market and this COVID business and all that, assuming that we get somewhere back to normalcy on that, there's no reason why these acres shouldn't continue to rise, in my opinion. This is currently where we have cotton being produced. In years past, there have been at least a couple more counties, maybe out to the east, where they've tried cotton. But under even this scenario, some of these counties don't have very many acres. Some of them may even only have one grower within that county. However, the potential for growth is pretty staggering. We figure that there's probably at least 1.5 million acres that could grow cotton in Kansas, and that's the kind of growth potential that could happen should things go correctly. So why do we need to trap? As I said, because if we don't have weevils and they're way down in South Texas, why should we care? And there's basically it's because there's too much at stake not to be trapping. The increasing acres, more growers are adding cotton to their rotations, so it's starting to matter to more people. Increasing economic importance of cotton to the producer, local economies and the state economies. It's starting to make a significant economic difference in many communities where no growers tell me that if it weren't for cotton, we'd be farming anymore. It's the main thing over the years that keeps making them money. So that's where we are, and that's why it's drawn so much attention. And then another reason why we need to be considering trapping is because the other cotton producing states, they're pretty much requiring us to do it, and it's to protect their investment if we should somehow get some up here from equipment that maybe would come up to Texas, from Texas or something like that, they don't want to get it from us. And the likelihood is extremely slim, but we want to avoid that too. And because of the nature of the pest, as I say down in this lower point here, undetected establishment and proliferation of boll weevils in Kansas, just them getting a foothold and taking off in Kansas could cripple or eliminate cotton as a production option. It's simply too expensive to fight and come out on top economically. So we need to be able to catch it in an early stage should it ever show up. And trapping is the one tool, that's our early warning system to identify if they ever show up. That's how we're going to find out. There won't be another way. And if we rely on maybe scouts or some other happenstance, it may be way out of control should they show up before we even knew about it. So we can't afford that. Last year in 2019, we had a program that we trapped the highways and coming into Kansas, and we also trapped the cotton fields along the two major interstates, Interstate 54 and then Highway 160. And this year now, that was primarily hopefully a catch in traps. Should there be anything coming into the state from out of state, that those traps would attract them and catch any hitchhikers or that kind of thing. And now that program is really not adequate for what we need to do. So we are expanding out to, let's see here, for 2020 now, our goal is to increase trapping to the minimum trapping standard set by the cotton industry. And that's a lot different than just trapping along the highways and things. I'll talk about that more in just a second. Our current program status, and I'm kind of bouncing around a little. I didn't really know what order to put these in, so forgive me if it doesn't seem quite in the order you might put it in. But anyway, our current status now is of 2020 today. We're receiving input from the National Cotton Council, Cotton Incorporated, and the Texas and Oklahoma boll weevil eradication programs. We've been getting input from them to develop and aspects to consider. We will be creating a boll weevil protection committee, planning committee to guide, really serve as a guiding committee more than just Kansas Cotton Association. We would like to have an independent committee from that to focus just on that. A lot of these goals here are still in the air, so it's a work in progress. So I just would say that. We have initiated the process of establishing a Kansas Boll Weevil Protection Foundation. We need to do this. We need to have an independent, recognized foundation or organization that that is recognized and has the statute authority to carry out some of the desires that we need to do for the program. We don't have authority for it now as it stands. We're a really loose organization now. We're still working on that, so that's in progress. In the meantime, we've hired some scientists out of Oklahoma University. They have developed a trapping data management program that's being used currently in the Oklahoma Boll Weevil Eradication Organization to basically track data, trapping and the servicing of the traps. It's an enormous task because there's so many traps that will be involved. We might end up with 1,500 traps in the field or somewhere around that. So you've got to have a good system. We're in the process right now of having that program downloaded and set up on iPads, so that as we start putting traps out, we can enter them by location, and then it also tracks them data-wise to say the dates of service and all that kind of thing. It's an excellent program, but we don't quite have it just yet, so that's why we haven't really gotten to putting traps out yet this season. I realize time is of the essence, but we're working on it. We are aiming for the minimum trapping protocol for trap placement and density, and that again is the standard of the industry. I'm going to talk about, I have a slide on that in just a second. We're still working to hire a program director so that it's taken over and run independent of Kansas Cotton Association. We're still looking for that. And then the program funding is still being worked out. So the details of like I said, a lot of this stuff is still in the air, but we're working on it, and we hope to, at bare minimum, have traps out this summer. It may not be quite to the standard we are looking for, but that's the goal, and that's what we're working towards. The minimum trapping protocol is basically one trap per section of cotton, land section that has cotton in it, a cotton field. So that's quite an endeavor, as you're going to see on one of the maps that I have. And then traps, one of the challenges of this program is to get data from the FSA office, which again, once we have a recognized foundation, we'll be able to establish memorandums of understanding or memorandums of agreement so that we can receive some of that information, the FSA information, for field locations, just so that we can put traps out. And that's the only thing that we want from that information, but we need to be officially recognized to be able to have access to that information. Weevil capture scenario, this is just a hypothetical, and again, the details will be worked out more. If there's ever a weevil captured, we'll make sure it's positively identified by a qualified entomologist. Upon any kind of identification, trapping will be increased in that area immediately, and then fields next to or within a mile of that field, we'll work to get them treated promptly. And then we'll also continue increased trapping and frequency of servicing those traps until those weevils are gone. So that's the goal anyway, and we're going to see how we can work towards that. I showed this, and it's not really fair to see it, but the red dots on there, if you can see red, are those are all cotton fields in at least 2/3 of the cotton producing state areas of the state. That's a better picture of like Sumner County. So that gives you, the red is cotton field. So we'll be working to place traps in those areas so that we meet that trapping protocol, and it will be a challenge. So that's what's ahead of us, and that's what we're working on. Finally, too, as we're going through this, we value your input. You can contact any of the gen managers at these email addresses. You can call me or email me. I don't have mine up there, but many of you know who I am or have my contact information. And we'll be, as time goes on, I really am impressed with the ability to pull together a Zoom meeting. So if that should come about, then a need for a meeting or that it would benefit, we'll work with KDA. Robin Bloom has already consented to help us organize additional meetings down the road to get the information out and also to get feedback from the public until we can finally start meeting together. So I guess with that, I'll just open it up for questions, at least for my aspect here.
Great, thank you, Rex. That was really helpful. And as you described, it's kind of the double-edged sword of growing our cotton acres or expanding them in Kansas. It does open us up to the risk of additional pests. And so I appreciate the work that you guys are doing to get ahead of that. So let's pause now to see if there's some questions for Rex, and then we'll open it up for questions for the rest of the group. Dana, any questions for Rex?
There is. Rex, I'll let you go ahead and stop sharing your screen as I get the question ready. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, nope, you got it. Perfect. Okay. Nope. There we go. Sounds great. Right. I do have a question for you about the boll weevils. Do they negatively impact other crops? And if so, could those commodity commissions be potential partners in this effort?
Well, thankfully, they are a pest that's unique to cotton. They do not attack other crops. And like I said in one of my newsletters, there are literally thousands of species of weevils. So if you see a weevil, don't panic and think it's a boll weevil necessarily. So, but no, it's unique to cotton. It does not anything else.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. Susan, we have two questions that came in that I'd like to get out here as we conclude things with it. I have a question for Mike. Can you share more about the future warehouse facility in Clearwater and potentially the timeline that goes with that?
There's not a specific timeline. A site has been placed, and I believe the objective is to have the warehouse open at the early part of 2021. So it may not be available for the very beginning of the Kansas harvest, but it should hopefully be able to help at some point with this season's crop. And as far as what was the other part of the question, I'm sorry.
Nope, you answered that about where it is and the potential on the timeline for the beginning of 2021. Very excited about that.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, super. That is great to hear for the state. And Shelley, I have a question for you as well. You mentioned that you are working with folks in DC, and I was just wondering, from questions asked, what's the most pressing issue at this time?
So I don't actually work with the folks in DC. I work with the Research and Promotion Program, and that is with what Cotton Incorporated does. National Cotton Council is our policy arm, and those guys work directly with the folks in DC. If I take my cotton board hat off and I put my producer hat on, I'm going to tell you that it is producer relief during these unprecedented COVID times.
Sounds great. Susan, if you have anything to wrap up, if not, we will send it back to Robin.
Right, before I send it back to Robin, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who logged on today and participated and shared those questions. Thank you to our fantastic presenters, Mike and JC, Rex, Shelley, and Galen. Just such a great round out of information. And all of those things highlight things that are either already captured in the cotton sector for the agro strategy, or give us some ideas of things that need to be incorporated as we move forward into the next year. So really appreciate all those great questions and feedback and presentations. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Robin and just say thank you so much for this opportunity to moderate this section.
Great. Thank you, Susan. And yes, thank you all for your participation today. Just a reminder that the session was recorded, so a recording of the webinar will be posted at www.agriculture.ks.gov/summit within the next week. Please remember to join us for the crossover sessions that we have on August 17th, 18th, and 19th, and on Thursday, August 20th, for the main Agro Summit webinar, where we will hear from guest speakers and share highlights from the sector crossover sessions. I would also like to take a quick moment before we end here to share that the Kansas Department of Agriculture is now accepting nominations for the first ever Kansas Agriculture Heroes program. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, Kansas farmers, ranchers, and agribusinesses have performed essential functions to keep food on the tables of people worldwide. KDA established this program as a way to recognize those in the agriculture industry who went above and beyond to serve others and better their community when it was needed most. You are encouraged to nominate any individual, family, or business in Kansas agriculture you feel provided notable contribution to the agriculture industry or their community as a whole this year. The nomination period is currently open and will close on August 10th. The nomination instructions can be found at www.agriculture.ks.gov/summit. Our next sector that we will have starting next week is the feed and forage sector on Monday, and that will be at 7:30 a.m. If you would like to register for that session or the other sessions that we have continuing in the next few weeks, please make sure to check out that website. Again, that's www.agriculture.ks.gov/summit. And with that, I thank you all again for your participation and have a great day.